do know that he's committed to his 2030 decarbonisation promise, Mr. Speaker, which they say will cost £28 billion. But I was reading about it this week. He says he's changed the party. One of his team called it an albatross hanging around their neck. That might have been the Shadow Chancellor, maybe, Mr. Speaker. But he said they're doubling down on it. All this ahead of a crunch meeting, we're told this week, for them to work out how they're going to pay for it. I can save them some time because we all know the answer: higher taxes for the British people.
Sir Keir Starmer will finally abandon his £28 billion flagship green energy plan today. It comes after months and months of speculation that it will be dropped. One of the main reasons for the policy being dropped is the fact that the Conservatives have launched attack after attack after attack on the fact that the British public, they say, will be taxed more money for this plan, and also that the Labour Party would undoubtedly have to borrow more money to pay for the plan. But there's been weeks and weeks of speculation on this, that how this was going to be abandoned. Many people thought that actually Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves would wait until the budget to see the state of the nation's economic affairs before finally ditching it. But the publicity over this has meant they brought that forward somewhat and decided to abandon it today.
To increase spending by 28 billion, if you're going to stick to fiscal rules, as the party opposite claims they will do, would mean increasing income tax by 4% or increasing the corporation tax that they say they're going to cap by 8%.
I think what it does, it comes down to the amount of U-turns that Keir Starmer has carried out in the past few months, whether it's tuition fees, whether it's an attack on Keir Starmer on whether he wanted a second referendum or not. It all feeds into the fact that Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives will say at the election that you can't trust them on any policy because they may well change their mind.
It's right that he should come clean with them about the cost that his plans will impose on all of them. He goes on and on about the Green Promise, Mr. Speaker. He says he wants to keep it. But he doesn't have a plan to pay for it. What he's really saying is he'll scrap the borrowing associated, but he wants to keep the £28 billion of spending. So for all those working families who are benefiting from our free childcare, he should come clean with them now. Why doesn't he come clean with them now? Come clean with them now and just be clear. His plans mean back to square one and higher taxes for British people.
This is going to be a real sticking point for Labour as they get into that general election. Now, they are 20 points ahead in the polls, but many Conservatives will say that much of that vote is soft, and there are still many people who what you would categorise as don't knows. So Keir Starmer, even though he is ahead in the polls, still has to be careful if he wants to get a working majority in the Commons after the next election.
I've seen these reports. This is a serious moment. This was the flagship plank of Labour's economic policy, and it now looks like he's trying to wriggle out of it. I think it demonstrates exactly what I've been saying, that he U-turns on major things. He can't say what he would do differently because he doesn't have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, then you can't deliver change for our country.
This policy was created, or it was announced with great fanfare at the Labour Party conference in 2021.
We will turn Britain into a green growth superpower, and driving us forward will be a goal that puts us ahead of any major economy in the world. 100% clean power by 2030. A goal that means investment in wind, solar, nuclear, hydrogen, green steel and carbon capture. Training for plumbers, electricians, engineers, software designers, technicians and builders. A national sovereign wealth fund that generates growth and private investment. Insulation for 19 million homes. And Great British Energy, a publicly owned company that takes advantage of the opportunities in clean British power and turns them into good, secure, high-paid British jobs. The argument for our plan is very simple. Clean energy is already cheaper than fossil fuels. 9 times cheaper. Working people need more of it. Britain needs to own it, and the jobs and growth it creates must be shared with every community. British power to the British people.
Now, because the party has been under such attack from the Conservatives over this big £28 billion policy, that they've had to take it away, because they can't afford to have the attacks on them from the Conservatives on how much they're going to be able to, how much they're going to tax or borrow on this. Now, it seems like many in the Shadow Cabinet wanted this policy to stay, mainly for environmental reasons, for the long-term future of the country. But it seems like Rachel Reeves has really sort of won the day. She has been really, really steadfast on those fiscal rules and being a responsible Shadow Chancellor, and she wants to be Chancellor in just a few months' time. But ultimately, the economy has won over those green issues.
The director of the Confederation of British Industry, Tony Danker, has been very clear about what is needed to get private sector investment going. He says we require catalytic public investment. That's what Labour's climate investment pledge does. £28 billion in each and every year of this decade to ensure that the industries and the jobs of the future are found all across Britain. Gigafactories to build electric vehicles, a thriving hydrogen industry, offshore wind turbines made here in Britain, planting trees and building flood defences, getting energy bills down and securing our energy supply, and allowing our economy to adapt as we drive down carbon emissions.
The unions, I think this is a short-sighted view and doesn't help their members and workers either. Barry Gardiner, the senior Labour MP who's been in the Commons for many, many years, says that the policy is economically illiterate. So all these people are circling around Sir Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves for making this policy, saying that they're not being bold enough. This is the moment to be bold just before a general election. You're 20 points ahead in the polls, and if you can't be bold, then when can you be? So they will come under fire from the unions, their own side. One former advisor to Tony Blair said this is one of the biggest mistakes in the party's history. They're trying to, that many people would like to see is Labour set out their stall for the next 10 years. If they're going to be in government for 5 or 10 years, they really need to have a big policy. And if they don't have a big policy, what exactly do they stand for?